Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Smithtown.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We thank you. Wade.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The first item on the agenda, the Planning Department recommends the following items for adjournment, as we have insufficient information to act upon them. Part 1, Item 2, number 2011-01, All Seasons Motor Lodge. Item 3, number 2010-06, KVC Holdings. Item 4, number 2009-05, FB4 Realty. Part 2, Item 6, number 773, Scholar Estates. Item 7, number 1098, Parnell Estates. Item 8, number 922, Sesame Estates. Item 9, number 1053A, Berg Estates. Item 10, number 911A, Glen Hill Northern. Part 3, Item 12, 280A, application of Olivia Estates. Mr. Chairman, these are the items the Planning Department recommends for adjournment.
Is there anybody here to be heard on those items to be adjourned? Hearing none, a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the items read.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Before we start the meeting, I have had a request to just get off the schedule there for the first item and go there to the Anna Estates. And there's been no objection from council. And so, ladies, would you read there the Anna Estates
Yes.
application?
Mr. Chairman, under Part 2, Item 5, Anna Estates. The applicant requests to waive the performance bond for the subdivision known as Anna Estates number 1048A, as no new construction will take place. The map of Anna Estates number 1048A was granted conditional final approval from the board on July 15, 2009. This application was approved for a two-lot subdivision fronting on Nissaquag River Road and Old Mill Road. The applicant received a prior approval for this subdivision from the board on December 6, 2006, file number 1048. The applicant posted a passbook in lieu of a performance bond and all related paperwork necessary for acceptance of the performance bond by the town, and the town board accepted the performance bond on November 13, 2007. However, the map was not filed and the conditional approval expired. Subsequently, the applicant submitted a new application with the Planning Department, number 1048A, on September 12, 2008, and the posted performance bond remained in place. The applicant is requesting the release of the performance bond because no new construction will take place, and the applicant intends to sell the newly created parcel, lot number 1, to a developer. The Highway and Traffic Safety Departments have no objections to the applicant's waiver request. The Engineering Department, in their memorandum dated October 12, 2011, requires that the applicant install monuments and prepare the final as-built survey. These items are listed on the performance bond at a total cost of $730. The Planning Department has no objection to the applicant's request. However, Planning recommends that a covenant be filed in the Suffolk County Clerk's office regarding future construction of lot number 1 with respect to any public improvements required by town departments at that time. The Planning Department is prepared to recommend approval of this application. However, the board may wish to adjourn this matter for an on-site inspection of the property. If the board wishes to act on this matter without an inspection, the Planning Department has prepared a resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the request of Anna Johnson to waive the performance bond within the subdivision known as Anna Estates number 1048A, subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall file a covenant in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk regarding future construction of lot number 1 with respect to any public improvements required by the Planning Board at that time. The Building Department will issue a building permit upon a performance bond being accepted by the Town Board, reflecting all public improvements to be completed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. 2, prior to the Town Board releasing the performance bond, the applicant shall install the required monuments and provide the Engineering Department with a letter of certification from a licensed land surveyor and provide the Engineering Department with a final as-built survey of the subdivision. Mr. Chairman, this is the Planning Department's recommendation for Anna Estates, number 1048A.
Is there anyone here representing the applicant? Please give your name and address when you come to the microphone, please.
Anna Johnson. Good evening, Board.
Tim Johnson. My mother
Would you
is
give your
Anna.
name too, please?
Tim Johnson.
Uh-huh.
This is my mother.
Yeah,
And we were working with the planning department in order to go ahead and get her bond released or waived.
You understand the conditions that were read here tonight?
Yes, we understand the conditions, yes.
And you have no objection to it?
Have no objections.
Okay.
you're right.
Any questions by the board?
I just have two. What would we, if we were to do an on-site, I don't see a reason for it, but what would we be accomplishing by doing that?
Not much. There's no construction, but we
Okay.
didn't want, normally the board's practice has been to inspect all waiver requests, so we didn't want to presume that the board would not want to inspect it, but I agree with you, Mr. Oshkron, that since nothing is being constructed, there's nothing to see.
Okay. And secondly, how do we keep track of, not that we don't trust these people, but how do we ensure that that covenant is filed properly?
Well, the covenant really is up to them to file, but there will be an annotation that will be placed in the building department's records on this particular property. So that will be done after the board passes this resolution. So if a building permit ever comes up, the tickler file will just pick that up immediately, whether it's filed or not.
Okay.
But that's just to notify the purchaser that when they buy the property that there's a covenant. We will know by our own records.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the board? A motion for the planning board to approve the request of Anna Johnson on the waive of a performance bond.
In the matter of Anna Estates, number 1048A, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Okay.
Thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Blaze, we're back there to the beginning of the agenda. We thank the members there for being patient there on something like this. They had another matter they had to go to.
Mr. Chairman, we'll go to Part 1 of the agenda, Item 1, number 2011-07, Hess Corporation. The Planning Board will conduct a public hearing this evening, October 19th, 2011, to consider the above-referenced petition for a change of zone from wholesale and service industry to neighborhood business to permit the reconstruction of a former gasoline filling station and addition of a convenience store. The site is a .77-acre parcel that fronts Jericho Turnpike, New York State Route 25, and Hornet Road. This is the site of a former gasoline service station that is currently closed and a commercial retail business. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from wholesale and service industry to neighborhood business to permit the reconstruction of a former gasoline filling station and the addition of a convenience store. This is a request to amend the comprehensive plan. Moreover, this is a resubmission of a proposal made through petition number 2007-05 of Phelan Realty that was denied in June of 2009. In 2008, the Planning Department recommended denial of the 2007 petition for two reasons. First, that the proposed use, a filling station with a convenience store, could have a negative impact on the traffic circulation at this busy five-way intersection, and second, that the requested neighborhood business zoning and convenience store use is not needed at this location because the neighborhood is adequately served by existing retail outlets. The current petition, the subject of tonight's hearing, is the same as the earlier petition, except that it proposes a shared driveway with the property immediately adjacent at the eastern boundary and does not show a definite plan for a shared southern access with that property. In all other respects, the petition appears to be proposing the same use and configuration of the property and access to the adjacent roadways. The Planning Department does not see anything in the current petition that would change the analysis or the conclusions reached in the review of the earlier petition. The information below includes lengthy quoted passages, shown in italic type, from the Department's December 18, 2008 memorandum to the Supervisor and the Town Board on the 2007 petition, as much of the information and analysis is unchanged since that time. Information on zoning has been updated to conform with recent corrections to zoning history. The petitioner included 2 additional zoning categories in the description of the current zoning of the property, as had the 2007 petition, and the Planning Department description of the property in 2007. But the Planning Department has confirmed that the 2 lots for which rezoning is requested are both currently zoned in their entirety as WSI. The site was zoned A business at the inception of zoning in 1932. By 1959, business use zoning in this corridor had been replaced with G commercial. Since 1964, the site has been zoned wholesale and service industry. The subject site is a formally developed .77-acre parcel made up of 2 tax lots, fronting Jericho Turnpike, New York State Route 25, and Harnett Road. The lot fronting Jericho Turnpike was developed with a filling station, now closed. The lot to the south, fronting only on Harnett Road, is developed with a retail store, a window shade shop, which may not be in compliance with the zoning. To the immediate north of the site across Jericho Turnpike, properties are zoned WSI and developed with restaurants, Friendly's and Chuck E. Cheese's. Further north, zoning is R6, townhouse 6 units per acre, and developed as townhouse condominium units known as Country Point. Directly east of the subject site, properties are zoned WSI and developed with a small office building, a restaurant, the Spare Rib, a pool supply store, and a filling station. Further east, in central business zoning, is the Mayfair Shopping Center. South of the site is a lot zoned professional business with a small house, which may currently be in office use, and single-family homes in R43 zoning. To the west is the Sunken Meadow State Parkway in R43 zoning. The board should consider 3 main issues in reviewing this petition. The first is the suitability of the site for the requested zoning, which includes consideration of whether there is need for the proposed zoning. The second is the potential impact on traffic circulation. The third is whether the site conforms to the requirements for the proposed use as stated in the zoning ordinance. The site is in a short corridor along Jericho Turnpike that has been zoned for WSI uses since the mid-1960s. This zoning category is intended to provide adequate land along appropriate arterial highways for automotive-related non-retail uses for Section 322-7D1. These uses are intended to serve area-wide needs, which is why they are to be located on arterial highways. Usually, such uses generate fewer exits and entrances on roadways than would retail uses. This site on a major arterial with immediate access to a state parkway conforms to the location expectations for WSI zoning. The requested zoning category, neighborhood business, is a retail category designed principally to serve the needs of the adjoining neighborhoods per Section 322-7-C4. NB zoning can be developed on sites as small as 7,500 square feet because it is not expected to draw traffic and customers from a large area. East of the site, there is a shopping center, Mayfair, located in CB zoning. It is approximately 1,100 feet away from the intersection of Jericho Turnpike and Harnett Road and situated on 24 acres, having adequate access and parking. Also, 600 feet east of the subject site is a filling station with a convenience sales store on the same side of the street. There is existing NB zoning south of the site at the intersection of Harnett Road and Veterans Memorial Highway, and additional retail zoning across Jericho Turnpike east of the subject site opposite the Mayfair Shopping Center. It appears that the retail needs of the surrounding residential areas can be met at these existing sites. The petitioner contends that in our region today, an accessory use such as a convenience store is necessary to make a filling station a viable commercial venture. In evaluating what is the most appropriate zoning for this location and whether the proposed zoning would improve and or serve the needs of the surrounding area, it is reasonable for the board to consider whether access to a filling station is a public benefit that should be included in the assessment of potential impacts of a change of zone. The site is located at the corner of a major complex intersection that is congested during high traffic periods of the day. In addition to the intersection of Jericho Turnpike and Harnett Road, a third stream of traffic feeds in from a Sunken Meadow State Parkway exit ramp. Harnett Road itself widens to 3 lanes to permit traffic to go straight across Jericho Turnpike or to turn left or right onto Jericho Turnpike. Together, the multiple options for vehicles at this intersection are sometimes confusing to drivers. This could complicate access to and from the proposed site. The board should consider how development under the requested zoning might impact the circulation at this intersection and whether access to the site can be designed to mitigate traffic circulation problems. The previous use on the subject site was a filling station, a use that was discontinued more than a year before this petition was submitted. That would be more than 3 years before the 2011 petition was submitted. A filling station is a use that can be located in NB, CB, or WSI zoning districts and requires special exception approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The petitioner is requesting the change of zone because the intended use would be a 1,231 square foot Hess Express for accessory convenience sales, that is a mini-mart, and accessory use to a filling station that is not permitted in WSI, although under WSI zoning, the petitioner is permitted to have a filling station with convenience sales limited to a 350 square foot area, provided they meet the special exception requirements. The proposed use is for a much larger facility. In order to permit a filling station with the proposed convenience sales store, the petitioner would not only need a change of zone to NB, but also a variance from the special exception requirement that, for accessory convenience sales, the site must have been in continuous use as a filling station since January 1st of 1994, per Section 322-827I and 3C, because the former filling station business on the site has been closed for more than a year. Additionally, the petition states that the proposed building would be 1,231 square feet for accessory sales use in addition to the filling station, but the ordinance permits only a total of 1,000 square feet for any purpose, including ancillary uses, per 322-827I and 3D. If the petitioner intends to proceed with the use as described, a variance from this requirement would also be necessary. Variances from the special exception requirements are considered unusual. The board should determine how the need for such variances might impact development of the site under the requested zoning. In reviewing the 2007 petition, the Planning Department invited comment from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works before a final decision was recommended. The Suffolk County Department of Public Works responded with a recommendation that access be consolidated and moved out of the intersection as much as possible. In addition, given the number of travel lanes adjacent to this site, directional accesses should be considered where appropriate, as of their letter dated June 11, 2008. In reviewing the 2007 petition, the Planning Department also did an analysis of accident data received from the Department of Transportation that covered a 15-year period. That analysis suggested that the number of accidents at this intersection declined following the closure of the filling station. However, the data are insufficient to confirm that any apparent such decline could be attributed to the closure of the filling station. A copy of the Department's March 5, 2009 memorandum summarizing that analysis with a chart showing number of accidents by year is attached to your memorandum. It is important to also note that concern about the traffic impacts at this site does not center on traffic generation, but on traffic circulation. It is not the presence of a convenience store at this site is likely to markedly increase the number of vehicles going through the intersection. It is that there will be a large increase in the number of vehicles that exit and enter the site, increasing the complexity of traffic circulation at the intersection. Finally, the earlier petition was reviewed by the Suffolk County Planning Commission in 2008. It is likely that the Commission will not comment on the current petition because it is their practice not to comment on applications that are considered resubmissions. The comment on the petition number 2007-05 was that it was a matter for local determination as follows. Pursuant to the requirements of sections A14-14 through 23 of the Suffolk County Administrative Code, the above referenced application, which has been submitted to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, is considered to be a matter for local determination as there is no apparent significant countywide or intercommunity impacts. A decision of local determination should not be construed as either an approval or a denial. Mr. Chairman, this is the Planning Department's presentation for the zone change petition number 2011-07, S Corporation.
Is there anyone here representing the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Appearing on behalf of the applicant, Hess Corporation, Eugene L. DiNicola, 200 Railroad Avenue, Sayville, New York. The applicant is requesting a change of zone of the subject premises from the present WSI, PB, and R15 zone to NB, Neighborhood Business Zoning District. The purpose is to construct a Hess gasoline facility station with a canopy over 6 dispenser islands and a diesel dispenser island, and a Hess Express convenience store. Now, the property, although the planning department indicates that the property only has one zoning WSI, our investigation indicated that it's WSI to approximately 35 feet from the southerly property line, and this is PB along this area, and then this little square, about 25 by 35, is in the R15 zone. That is our research. The area within which the subject premise is located, I will describe briefly. To the north, across Jericho Turnpike, is a Friendly Restaurant. To the east of the Friendly Restaurant is a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. To the east, along the south side of Jericho Turnpike, east of the subject premises, is M.J. Kim State Farm Insurance Agency, then the Spare Rib Restaurant, a swimming pool supply business. Then there's a Gulf gasoline filling station, Gasoline Heaven, and then there's the Gasoline Heaven convenience store, which is on property zone WSI. To the south is an office building under renovation. Then there are dwellings. If you went south on Haunted Road, there are several dwellings until you get to the intersection of 347 or the Smithtown bypass and Haunted Road, where there are commercial uses. There's a little shopping center, an office building, etc. To the west, across Haunted Road from the subject premises, is the Sunken Meadow Parkway. Jericho Turnpike on both the north and south sides is predominantly and overwhelmingly commercial in development. Now, the subject parcel is located at the southeast corner of Jericho Turnpike, which is also known as New York State Route 25, and Haunted Road. The site contains 33,327 square feet of plot area. It has a frontage on Jericho Turnpike of 125 feet and a frontage on Haunted Road of 202.75 feet. It currently has erected thereon a closed two-bay former gasoline filling station, I believe it was a Shell station, on the north portion. That would be at this area here. And there is a closed one-story commercial building on the south portion of the property. The two properties will, of course, be combined into one overall parcel. The subject parcel is predominantly, excuse me, as I have indicated, in the WSI zoning district, with the exception of the other two small zoning categories at the southerly portion of the property. Now, the applicant, Hess Corporation, proposes to demolish the existing improvements on the site, that is the closed two-bay gasoline service station and the one-story masonry commercial building. Hess will then erect a new canopy over 6 dispenser islands and a Hess convenience store. They will construct the canopy, will a mansard canopy, and will be erected on the property where the two-bay station is. This brown area will be where the canopy is, with the 6 dispensers and the diesel dispenser islands. To the south, it will construct, at this point, this brown box here, it will construct a Hess convenience store of 1,231 square feet, and the white portion in front of the convenience store is parking for the convenience store. The proposed canopy, and I know I have an elevation here, will be mansard. Oh, Okay, thank you, Kevin. We'll have a mansard top canopy. It will have the Hess logo in block letters. They're green hue. They are backlighted, just the canopy letters. The balance of the canopy is non-backlighted. It is a shingle, which will match the convenience store building. And I will have to turn this around. The lights are recessed into the deck of the canopy. The proposed convenience store building will be what Hess has termed its Hampton style or East End building. It contains, as I indicated, 1,231 square feet of area. The interior has an approximate sales area of 644 square feet, and then also has restrooms, utility area, storage, office, and cashier area. The architecture, as shown on the board to my left, will have a peaked roof, shingled, as I indicated, to match the canopy on the to match the canopy top. It has a porch. It has clapboard siding. So it has the feel, if you will, of a general store, not your typical brick box or split-face stone building. The total FAR on the site of the canopy and the convenience store is only 13.6% of coverage, the total area being 3,571 square feet. On the plot, as I have indicated, is in excess of 33,000 square feet. The landscape area will be in excess of 7,000 square feet, or approximately 21% of the parcel. Currently, there is no landscaping on the parcel whatsoever. I'm sure you have inspected the site. The site will have 18 parking spaces, 6 of which will be land banked, and we will have 12 spaces for the convenience store. The ITE manual indicates that 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet of store area would be the appropriate number of parking spaces for a convenience store of this nature. So if you have 1,231 square feet, you're looking at the store needs maybe 5 or 6 spaces. We will have 12, and that excludes the 12 spaces at the pump islands. There are 12 fueling positions beneath the canopy, and I'm sure we're all familiar with convenience stores. In conjunction with the operation of a gasoline station, gasoline filling station, you park your car at the pump. You generally walk in, and you don't move your car for the most part from the pump to the convenience store. There will be at Jericho Turnpike. There's going to be 2 curb cuts, a right turn in, and a right turn out onto Jericho Turnpike. At Haunted Road, there's only going to be 1 curb cut accessing the site at the southern portion. There was a curb cut at this location. I think there are 3 curb cuts currently on Haunted Road. They will all be eliminated. There's only going to be 1 curb cut into the site, which is also going to serve as a cross-access to the parking lot for the spare rib to the east. So a car can enter from Haunted Road and access the pump, the gasoline dispensers, and either go out on Jericho Turnpike or go back out on Haunted Road to exit the premises. Hess is proposing, and we've been in discussion with the gentleman next door, Mr. Kim, this Kim Agency. It's a rather small parcel of land, I don't know, maybe 50 by 100, something like that. And we are arranging for him to have cross-access out from the rear of his building. His building fronts on Jericho Turnpike. I think he has a couple of spaces in front, but there's also parking in the rear. and we will allow him to have access out of the rear of his property to access Haunted Road. He seems satisfied with that, but there may be some additional discussions, but that is the general understanding with Mr. Kim. There will be no repairs conducted on the site. As you know, Hess stations are very clean, don't do any repair work whatsoever. All lighting will be retained on the site. The site is large and is more than adequate for the proposed use. As I indicated, it's in excess of 33,000 square feet. The previously repair base station with its dispensers was only on 12,500 square feet of property. Gasoline filling stations with or without convenience stores are not destination points. You don't go to the gas station, at least I don't know anyone who does. The gasoline service stations pick up pass-by traffic that is already in the traffic stream. So you are, you go to I presume, you go when you're taking another trip, when you're going shopping, or if you're on your way to work or home from work, you need gas, you pull into the gasoline filling station, of course, depending on what the price is, and that's when you fill up. You don't, it's not a destination point. People also do not shop in a convenience store. It is just that it's for a convenience item when you are in the gasoline on the property purchasing gasoline. You may need a convenience item, a quart of milk, a bottle of soda, a cup of coffee, something like that. Now this intersection is controlled by a multi-phase traffic signal system which addresses volumes of traffic, and all of the traffic moves quite well in all directions. Now I have a traffic engineer who will elaborate on the traffic issues following my presentation. The WSI portion of the site, which is a majority of the site, permits gasoline filling station as a special permit use. It does not, however, that is WSI, permit a retail establishment, which is what a convenience store, I guess, is considered by the town, even though it's an accessory to an automotive use, which is one of the items that they have indicated in their previously prepared statement. Uses are intended to serve wide needs, which is why they are to be located on arterial highways, which is a gasoline filling station. And the WSI zoning category is intended to provide adequate land along appropriate arterial highways for automotive-related non-retail uses. But it's automotive, and unfortunately, the ordinance and perhaps planning simply has not kept up with the times. Base stations are a thing of the past. I can tell you my father owned 3 of them. There are very few, if that I'm aware of, stations that have repair bays in conjunction with the sale of gasoline. They can't afford the equipment to take care of the new cars. New cars are leased, turned back every 3 years, so they never get to the point of serious repairs. And people take their cars back to the dealers with all of the warranties that they have on the vehicles today. So the base station, for the most part, is a thing of the past. Gasoline stations have always had a second use as a part of their operation. In the infancy of the automotive age, gasoline was sold as part of the operation of a general store. I remember it. Maybe everybody is too young here to remember that. Then, in the late 40s, base stations started to come in to vogue, where you had a 2 or 3 base station, you did your repairs, which you could repair a car in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And then, obviously, the new high compression engines and cars and all the technology came in, and now we're back to a convenience store. And as I like to say, something old is new again. That's the convenience store, formerly the general store. If the WSI zoning district took into consideration the change in the retail gasoline sales business, this application for a change of zone would not be necessary. It is part of the gasoline filling station operation today. If the change of zone for the use proposed by the applicant is recommended by this board, there are no potential impacts. It is the site of a previously operating gasoline filling station with repair bays, which operated on a smaller parcel of land, as I indicated. The site received a certificate of occupancy on March 3rd, 1954, as a filling station and a repair bay operation. The subject site proposed by Hess is substantially larger with better ingress and egress, better traffic movements, better interaction with the adjoining properties, much better in appearance architecturally and landscape-wise. This use proposed must be located on a major arterial highway, which is recommended in their statement to the board, and is not typical a use for a residential type road. Its primary function is that of a gasoline filling station, not a retail store. The convenience store is for the convenience of the vehicle operator who may be purchasing gasoline for his or her auto. The proposed use will serve the needs of the community for gasoline purchases and convenience items which are primarily purchased by customers who are at the site to purchase gasoline. The gasoline dispensers are equipped today with card readers if you use a credit card. So customers using credit cards do not even have to enter the convenience store to pay for their gasoline purchase. If they do not wish to buy a convenience item, they don't even have to go into the convenience store. The subject site has been in its current closed, rundown, unattractive condition since at least 2007. No other party, to the best of my knowledge, has evidenced interest in the redevelopment of this property, except Hess. We came here in 2007 for an application for approval, and of course, as indicated by the planning staff, it was recommended for denial, although it was not a 100% a vote of 100% vote, a unanimous vote, I'm sorry, of either board, either the town board or this planning board. A prior application made by Hess, at that time, the place was boarded up and unattractive. Nothing has happened in 4 years, so there can't be too much interest in this property, especially for a use that is a destination point. This actually, the proposal of Hess is actually better because it picks up the traffic from the existing traffic stream. No one has to get to this point, and that may be one of the reasons that it has never redeveloped. It is not a very attractive site coming into Smithtown, coming into Comac when you pass under the Sunken Meadow Parkway. The proposed redevelopment will be a vast improvement to the area as well as to the town. It will be an attractive, neatly maintained property, providing a service and a product for the local community and the town at large. It will provide a stable tax base for the town for many years to come, real estate taxes, and it will also generate sales tax revenue, which is something we should be thinking about, not just keeping properties vacant and closed for years and years. The redevelopment of the site will generate approximately 30 jobs during construction and approximately 10 jobs thereafter. The site Hess operates its own gasoline filling stations. They do not franchise them. So the person behind the counter is a Hess employee. If there are any problems, that Hess employee knows to call Woodbridge, New Jersey. Or there is an 800 number posted where if there is a problem, that person with the problem can call Hess headquarters at Woodbridge, New Jersey directly. Hess Corporation owns several sites within the town of Smithtown for gasoline filling stations with convenience stores in business districts. CB District at the southwest corner of Indian Head Road and Meadow Road, Kings Park. CB District, southeast corner Pulaski Road and Old Comac Road, Kings Park. NB District, New York State Route 111 and New York State Route 347, 111 and 347, Smithtown. There is a station at the southwest corner of New York State Route 347 and Mount Pleasant Road. That, I believe, is a business district. I have not confirmed it, so I want to make the record clear. I do not believe it's WSI, but I was not able to verify that. On October 30, 2007, zoning petition number 2007-02, the applicant was Karen, K-A-R-I-N, L-P. The town board approved the change of zone from WSI to NB District for property located at the northwest corner of New York State Route 25, that's Jericho Turnpike, and Kings Park Road. I don't know, maybe it's 3/4 of a mile to the east of the subject site, of this site. And it was to permit the construction of a Hess filling station with a canopy over gasoline dispensers and a Hess convenience store of 1,231 square feet. The same development as proposed this evening. I don't know if the board, members of the board have looked at that site. We recently completed the construction. It is extremely attractive, much better than what was on that site before. A vast improvement, at least in my eyes. I guess maybe beauty is in the eye of the beholder. In the prior hearing on this site, the planning report stated in the evaluation portion, which was not read to the board this evening, advantages. Approval would encourage orderly development of the site. Also, approval would permit development of a viable commercial use at this location. Yet, of course, they recommended denial. The disadvantages which they had in that report were traffic circulation would be more complex at the intersection, for which no proof was offered whatsoever, and the filling station and convenience store would be a more intensive use of the site. However, on that last disadvantage, they did not acknowledge that the uses are integrated and compatible in the current retail sales business for gasoline filling stations. The two disadvantages which were enumerated by planning staff seem not to have a reasonable logic, whereas the advantages are clear, concise, and indicate good zoning practice. The recommendation by the Suffolk County Planning Commission, as indicated, was a matter of local determination. At this time, Mr. Chairman, I have a petition of some 80, I'm going to say 86 signatures, which I would like to submit to the board at this time, if I may.
What is it for?
Petition in favor of the application.
From residents in the area?
These are from residents in the area, correct.
How close to the area?
Well, Blue Spruce Lane, Meadow, excuse me.
You don't have to go through each one, just generally within a mile?
Oh, yeah, I would say so, sure. Blue Spruce Lane is just down, I believe it's just down within 3/4 of a mile or something. The planning board would know that. The petition was just handed to me. So, and I'm told that, Pickwick Drive is around the corner, so it is within reasonable distance, but the planning staff, I'm sure, will verify it.
Mr. DeRubis, please.
Mr. DeRubis. Now, as far as the concerns about the suitability of the site for the requested zoning, it was a gasoline filling station, as I indicate, a gasoline station with repair bays. It has been a gasoline filling station on 12,500 square feet since 1954. Now, if the station closed up, I know it was closed in 2007. If it closed the year before, well, that's the life of a base station. They are no longer viable today. The impact on traffic circulation, which is their second concern, will be addressed by the traffic engineer shortly. And as far as the site conforming to the requirements of the proposed use, as stated in the zoning ordinance, it may require some variances, but the Board of Zoning Appeals has granted variances for the other sites, which I have alluded to in my presentation. To the east, 600 feet, or the statement that there are enough people to serve the community, I don't think it's a planning staff determination to see what business is going to be operating out of where. I don't know that they set up the competition in areas. That's the American way. If you have a business and you want to open a business, the other fella has to compete with you, and you have to compete with him. That's the way it works, not picking winners and losers. At this time, Mr. Chairman, and also Gasoline Heaven, the convenience store, is on property zone WSI, and that used to be an old beverage place that burned to the ground, and then they allowed a non-conforming use to be erected, and I believe, without going into having a zoning discussion, I believe that non-conforming uses are to be eliminated, not permitted, reconstructed. That place burned to the ground. In any event, Mr. Chairman, at this time I would like to submit testimony from a traffic expert, if I may.
Thank you.
Mr. Muller, would you state for the board your name, address, and profession?
My name is Wayne Muller. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New York. My offices are at 355 New York Avenue in Huntington, with the firm of RMS Engineering.
All right. Have you made a site and area inspection for the application?
Yes, I have.
Did you prepare a written report with regard to the traffic at the site?
Yes, I did. And for the record, I'd like to submit copies of that report.
Mr. Muller, would you briefly present to the board your findings with regard to the traffic at the intersection of Haunted Road and Jericho Turnpike, and the impact, if any, with regard to the proposed uses of the applicant at the site?
But first, I'd just like to refer to the site plan, which is prepared by FST Engineers, which is located to my left. It's actually an aerial photograph with the site plan superimposed onto it. As Mr. DiNicola indicated, and as I testified before at the last hearing, the previous application had two driveways on Haunted Road, and I know that the northerlymost driveway at the time of the last hearing was a major issue with the board and the planning staff. That driveway has been eliminated. So as it stands on the plan before the board today, we are proposing one curb cut on Haunted Road. As indicated on the site plans, it is our proposal to restrict left turn movements out of that driveway. So essentially, it will service right turn in and right turn out vehicles only. The driveways on Route 25 from the previous application to the current have been modified. As Mr. DiNicola indicated, the westernmost driveway would be configured for entering right turns only, and the easternmost driveway will be configured for exiting right turns only. And what we've done is we've eliminated some of the major conflict points for vehicles that would be accessing the station. We eliminated the left turn exiting the driveway for people crossing the 2 lanes going east on Jericho Turnpike, and we'll be forcing them to make a right turn only, which promotes a safer condition as far as access is concerned, because it eliminates these conflict points. As Mr. DiNicola indicated, and as indicated in my report, we prepared a detailed traffic analysis. And just to summarize the methodology we employed, we performed traffic volume counts at the intersection of Indian Head Road, Jericho Turnpike, and the Northern State Parkway and Harnett Road. The data was collected on Saturday, October 1st, and Wednesday, October 5th of 2011. What we did was we synthesized the various different peak hours associated with the volumes that we collected, and that would be the morning commuter peak hour, which is 1 hour between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning, the afternoon commuter peak hour, which is 1 hour between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the evening, and then the Saturday midday peak hour. We then expanded those volumes for 2 years using a growth rate that we obtained from the New York State Department of Transportation to project future 2013 design traffic volumes. What we then did was we utilized the statistics presented in the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which is a nationally recognized publication which allows traffic engineers to project the quantity of traffic that would be generated by a facility of this nature. We superimposed the site-generated volumes onto the expanded existing volumes at the intersection of Jericho Turnpike and Harnett Road, Indian Head Road, and Northern State Parkway, and we performed an analysis using the highway capacity manual methodology, which allows us to determine how an intersection functions under existing and proposed conditions. As I previously indicated, the turning movements out of the driveways or the major conflict points are eliminated from this proposal. And what our analysis has shown was that there would be no significant impact to the intersection in question, and the site driveways would operate at an acceptable level of service upon the introduction of the site-generated traffic. One thing I would like to point out, and Mr. DiNicola did point out in his presentation, is that a significantly large quantity of traffic generated by these types of facilities are pass-by in nature, meaning the vehicles are already on the roadway. People primarily are traveling from home to work in the morning, from work to home in the evening. As the board is probably well aware, the volumes on Long Island are very directional in the peak hours. The big move in the morning is everybody going westbound in the morning. In the afternoon, the trend is more of in an easterly nature, and on Saturday, the volumes are kind of split. But the Institute of Transportation Engineers during the morning peak hour, based on the studies that they prepared, indicated a range of pass-by traffic of 46% to 78%, with the average being 62%. And in the evening, the range is 46% to 72%, with the average being 56%. So a significant quantity of traffic that would be generated by this facility would already be on the roadway network surrounding the site. Another thing that we did do is we looked at the various different uses that could be built within the WSI zone without relief from the board. And those uses include, I guess it would be a bank, which would generate a similar, if not greater, quantity of traffic depending on the size of the bank that we put on the property. A restaurant could be constructed on this property, which could, depending on the use of the restaurant, would generate a similar quantity of traffic. So what we're proposing here, and again, a restaurant, depending on the nature of it, may have a larger percentage of non-pass-by traffic, that meaning it would be a destination during the various different peak hours, whereas the facility in question, the bulk of the traffic generated by this facility is pass-by in nature. I've heard some terminology referencing the very complex nature of the intersection of Harnett Road and Indian Head Road, but it's really not all that complicated the way that the New York State Department of Transportation has configured its operation. And subsequently, after the last hearing, the State Department of Transportation simplified it quite a bit by providing a protected only westbound to southbound left turn arrow. At the time of the last hearing, people were able to make a left turn going west to south without a green arrow or a red arrow. Essentially, you could make the turn on a gap, and I believe that they thought that that was probably not a desirable situation because you had, again, you're facing the traffic coming off the Parkway, the traffic going eastbound on Jericho. So what they've done is they reconfigured the intersection on their own to put in a what we call a protected phase, meaning that you can only make a left there when there's a green arrow. All of the times you'll see a red arrow, so you have to stop, which is a much safer condition. But the way that they've configured this intersection is that you have a leading westbound movement, so the traffic going in the westbound direction, the left, the through, and the right operate by itself during one phase. Then the left turn stop, and the through traffic on Jericho Turnpike goes east and west. Then that phase stops. Then the southbound traffic on Indian Head Road goes. And then the northbound and southbound traffic on Indian Head goes. And then finally, the traffic coming on the Parkway moves simultaneously with the left turn to go northbound on Indian Head Road and the right turns coming off Indian Head Road to head east. So they've created, in my opinion, a very orderly flow of traffic, though it may not be conventional to the layman. They have actually prepared a situation here and prepared a design and implemented that design with, in my opinion, which is a very orderly flow of traffic within this intersection, because there are definitely times when, say, the northbound and southbound traffic is stopped, the eastbound traffic is stopped, and the westbound traffic is stopped, and the movements are not that complicated. One thing I would like to point out also is that because of the fact that we're restricting the access to the facility, this facility is going to be receiving its traffic in a very limited quantity of directions, and that would be from the south going north on Haunted Road. The vehicles will make a right turn in, and then they'll circulate out and go back onto Haunted Road and come out and travel in the northbound direction. And the bulk of the traffic will obviously be coming off of Route 25 and from the Parkway going in an eastbound direction, where they'll make a right turn in and then make a right turn out. So by improving the circulation on the property from that which we presented previously, we've created a much safer situation on site, and we believe we've also enhanced the circulation to a large degree. We also did an exploration of the traffic accidents that occur at the subject intersection. We also obtained that information from the New York State Department of Transportation, and in accordance with recognized procedures, we obtained the latest information available from the last 3 years. That's actually 37 months, from February of 2008 to, I believe it's March of the first 2 months of 2011. February of 2011. It's actually a total of 37 months. And what we did find was that there were a total of 77 traffic accidents at this intersection within 37 months. What we did find was that with all the volume flowing into this intersection, there's approximately 41,600 vehicles that enter this intersection on a daily basis. That being vehicles coming from the west traveling east, from the east traveling west, north and southbound on Indian Head and Haunted Road, and coming off the Parkway. On a yearly basis, that translates to approximately 15.2 million vehicles entering the intersection on a yearly basis, and approximately 60.85 million vehicles entering the intersection within the 37-month time frame in which we received the data from the state. So if we were to look at it in that perspective, where we've got almost 61 million cars entering the intersection and there were 77 accidents, in my opinion, that would be almost an imperceptible amount due to the fact that we have that many vehicles entering the intersection. I would also like to point out that in the data that we collected, and also the data that we presented previously to the planning staff, to the best of our knowledge, there were no fatalities at this location, which I believe is also important. So most of the accidents that we were able to analyze from the state were what they would consider to be property damage only, minor fender benders. The majority of them were rear-end accidents traveling in the eastbound direction. I took a look at even after the state installed that left turn arrow. There were no significant reduction, but for whatever reason, the vehicles traveling east are getting rear-ended as they stop for whatever reason. It's important from the perspective of this facility in so much as that we're not going to be taking or adding any traffic to the eastbound direction because of the fact that we're restricting turns in and out of the facility on Route 25. So we're going to be taking, in the westbound direction. I'm sorry, the accidents were in the westbound direction. Our traffic is going in the opposite direction, so we don't anticipate that there would be any impact. Also, our analysis of the accident data indicated that the majority of the accidents occurred during the day between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. for whatever reason, and on clear days. In summary, based on all the analysis that we've prepared, and based on the fact that the bulk of the traffic that's generated by a facility such as which is proposed is pass-by in nature, meaning those vehicles are already on the roadways, in the traffic streams, passing by the site, and the fact that we're limiting the access, it is my opinion that the granting of this application will not create any undue traffic congestion or hazard, and that the access as designed and shown on the plans prepared by FST will promote safe ingress and egress from the property and adequate circulation throughout the property. One other thing I'd like to point out, and I believe that's shown on the site plan, and Mr. DiNicola may have touched on this, is that the project, as proposed and depicted on the plans, requires a total of 12.3 parking spaces. As Mr. DiNicola indicated, we are providing 12 paved parking spaces, and there's an additional 6 land bank spaces on the property. As Mr. DiNicola indicated, and as I would agree, the 12 spaces are more than adequate to satisfy the anticipated demand. The number will probably be more in the range of 6 to 8 spaces occupied based on national statistics and our observations at similar facilities. Another important feature that Mr. DiNicola pointed out was that we have this cross-access to the spare rib located to the east. And what that will tend to do is cars that are currently traveling in the northbound direction on Haunted Road that wish to go to the spare rib now travel through the intersection of Jericho Turnpike and Haunted Road and then travel into the spare rib, and then because there are no restrictions at the driveway to the spare rib, they make a left turn out of the spare rib and then come around. By providing this cross-access between the properties, we allow a better circulation for that site also, and our analysis factors in a small quantity of vehicles that would perform that maneuver, but people say who are going to the spare rib coming from the north will make the turn at the intersection, go into the spare rib, and then have the ability to circulate back around and go north. Those cars coming from the south will no longer have to travel through the intersection. They'll make a right turn in, go into the spare rib, and then go out on their merry way. So there is some, from a traffic circulation perspective, significant benefits by providing the cross-access to the spare rib property to the east. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Anything else?
have another question for you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that concludes the applicant's presentation. If the board has any questions, we certainly will make every attempt to answer them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any members of the audience that wish to speak on this? Okay. Let's start over here, and then we'll go to that side of the room and complete this side of the room first, and then we'll do that side of the room. The gentleman that just, yes, you come on up, give your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Ed Burrow.
You can take the mic and hold it if you like.
Okay. My name is Ed Burrow. This is my wife, Barbara. We own the property adjacent to the south at 19 Harned Road, and we have a couple of questions that were not addressed in the presentation. We'd like to have those addressed.
Okay.
B-U-R-O. Currently, we have a cross-access that was mandated during our renovation that occurs along the south side, which was not addressed there, and we'd like to know what the impact of that would be in addition to knowing a little bit about the flow that will occur on the south side, since our curb cut is approximately 5 feet to the south of their curb cut, and we only have one egress and ingress at that point. In addition, I would also like to know what's the plan for the south border, since we're putting a significant investment in landscape on that side. Is there going to be a fence? Is there going to be something else that was not addressed? And lastly, we'd like to know about deliveries, truck deliveries, gasoline deliveries, and going along that south border.
Okay. We'll get some answers for you.
Okay.
I just have one other comment. We purchased the property about 3.5 years ago, and we appreciate everything the planning board has done for us to get our project moved forward. But in that 3.5 years, coming out of, absolutely, we agree that there should be no left-hand turn, but on high traffic times, it's not even possible to make a right into that westbound turning lane, because you're basically crossing 3 lanes of traffic, and then the 4th is that turning lane that exists. And we just, I don't know anything about procedural, requests and applications, but would you ever consider, being that our practice is a podiatry practice, and a majority of our patients are senior citizens, we're concerned that the traffic flow will increase. We're concerned for their safety. Would you ever consider a light that would accommodate both of our Harned Road curb cuts, that would allow not even so much the left-hand turn, but the right-hand turn that would allow them into the westbound turning lane? Because I'm telling you, what I do is I do not even bother, and I make a right. I go down to Mayfair Shopping Center, I go into the shopping center, and I wait at that light to go westbound. And I've been doing this for 3.5 years. So would you ever consider, if it could accommodate both of our properties and allow for the safety of our patients as well as their traffic, would you ever consider it, and how do we go about a request for that?
All right, we'll get some answers for that for you. All right, the gentleman in the back. You have anything to say? No? All right, over here. Give your name and address, please.
My name is, excuse me, my name is Rudy Massa, 35 Hollywood Road, Comac. I am the owner-operator of Gasoline Heaven, who they've mentioned several times here tonight. Before I get into my presentation, I have all due respect for Mr. DiNicola, but I think I'm the expert in the gas business, and he might be the expert in the attorney business. Gas stations with repair shops are very common. In Comac, there are 5, okay? The only reason that convenience stores are now being claimed to be an accessory item to the gas business is because the oil companies did that. When I was a young man, I'm 65 years old now, you wouldn't dream of walking into a gas station to buy a hot dog. So how did we get to the point where that happened? The oil companies did it. We've never gone to war over shoes, clothes, rings, but we go to war of oil. And if somebody closes down tonight, America will free it up tomorrow. They're the most powerful industry in the world. So it's like the little guy fighting the big guy. Hess has plenty of presentation in Comac, plenty of presentation in Comac. Enough said about that. Okay, I'm here tonight because some of these people in the audience think it's about competition. It's not. 2 quick examples. Matthew Packman, who most of you people know. By the way, I want to thank the board and Mr. DeRubius for hearing us out tonight. Matthew Packman informed me 9 years ago that 7-Eleven was putting an application in simultaneously to the time I was putting mine in for my Quick Stop. He says, do you want to move forward with this? Yes, I do. I'm not afraid of competition. Hess opened up east of us. Not one word was said in objection to that application because they had the right to be there. So who are we to say you can't be there? So that's not about competition. I put together my business plan knowing what the local zoning has been for many, many years, and to change the zoning would change all the business plans of all these dealers in Comac. So when we saw what could go around this area, we said, this will work and this won't work. And again, we're local people. I'm in this community. My parents moved out here. They're both deceased now, but in 1959. So we've been in this town watching it grow. Okay, let me get my glasses on because without it, I can't go forward. Okay, I have a letter that I'm just going to turn into you folks from the Comac Community Association. All board members unanimously voting against this application because of the traffic. And if you get to all of what they talked about here tonight, it was all about traffic. So the whole focus is that. Everyone, we can try to deviate and say it's not that. But if you think of all the gyrations, all the movements, all the curb cut changes, it's because they know that corner is a disaster. And I'm on that strip 40 years, it's a disaster. So I'll let you read this, but Comac, I'll turn this in, Comac Association, signed by Bruce Ettenberg, the president. Long Island gasoline retailers, okay, same thing, concerned about the traffic, the impact on the dealers in the area, and I will turn this into Frank in a couple of minutes. We did some research of ourselves. Within 1.5 miles, ladies and gentlemen, there are 8 gas stations within 1.5 miles. There's a Quick Stop, which I own, a Dunkin' Donuts, a Starbucks, a 7-Eleven, a Bagel Boss, a Hess Express, a Mobile Mart, a beer distributor that functions as a convenience store, and 3 delis. For you folks that want to change this law to put somebody else in there, where is the possible need for this to happen? There's just no need in that neighborhood for another gas station on the corner. This is not New York City. We don't have the population that would warrant that kind of saturation of more businesses that are all alike. Okay. You may gain your tax revenue on the corner. He's right. And the place is a blight, and they're right. But for the life of me, I can't figure out why the property landlord hasn't made some attempt to clean it up. I mean, it's pretty simple. If I had a neighbor that didn't cut his lawn, damn it, I'd probably cut it myself. I don't get why it's not been cleaned up, but that's something that has nothing to do with me. It just strikes me as a citizen of this town as to why it hasn't been cleaned up. So we don't have the population that could take another business on without hurting the other guys. So you may get your tax revenue. You may get a beautiful station in the corner, and they do a hell of a job. You're going to put 2 guys out of business, and you're going to be back to square one again. There are many people with this economy that are just getting by. And to put another nail in their coffin would be just a disaster. We're local guys. We give back to the community. We don't employ 10. I employ 70 people, okay? And they made mention of that I have a non-conforming use. Well, Mr. Packman can explain that. I'll have him call any one of you board members you'd like. It was a non-conforming use, pre-existing condition, and they granted it. So I don't know what that has to do with what they want to accomplish here. Traffic. They turned in a petition. Well, I got 500 people on a petition, and I didn't bring it here tonight to burden you down with that because I'm not done with it yet, okay? Very simple. If you ask somebody, do you want to clean that corner up, everyone would say absolutely yes. Add into it, you want to put a high-impact station like that on one of the most dangerous intersections in Smithtown, they'd say absolutely no. So I'll get you my petition. If you want it, I can turn it in tomorrow. Okay. The accidents from Mayfair Shopping Center West are way more. I mean, with all due respect to the traffic, man, 77 accidents, somebody gets hurt and killed in that corner, or let's say there was no fatalities. There's more to it than just rear-end slight collisions. 77 accidents on that corner, and that's what that place closed down. Open that place up, and it'll be 177. So it's just crazy. There's nobody in their right thinking could think that that is the best use for that corner. I honestly can't think of a worse land use with more high impact. Again, I want to consider myself, if I may, as the expert in the gas business. We try to generate as many cars per hour as we can get. And I'll say what Jean DiNicola said, if it's the price. And they price low, and that's fine. We love that competition. So what are they trying to accomplish? Just shove in as many cars per hour as you can possibly get in there, because that's the nature of the gas business. It's not to stroll in and out and hope a person stops by. The nature of the business, bring the cars in as many as you could. And by the way, I think as Americans, one of the worst things we do is drive. I mean, I'm on that strip 40 years. The people are nuts. I mean, I'm not trying to be comical. They pass red lights. I mean, you could say you're not going to be able to make a left turn. Watch how many people do, because they don't listen anyway. And that's why there are so many accidents. Okay. And what really bothers me is I've got people that work for me now that I used to see go to school, and they got children that work for me now or in that area. My grandchildren are starting to drive. It's just a dangerous. Tell me something, folks. Would you ever want your grandchild on his first driving lesson to be on Jericho Turnpike? No one does that. You can't do that. They want go into a parking lot, go into a backyard, and eventually work their way to Jericho. And the reason is because it's a disaster. It's unfortunate. My place is a disaster, and I admit to it. But I've been there 40 years. I do the best I could to control the traffic, but people just don't listen. In any event, I think by putting this application on the corner, we're doing the whole community a disservice. And one other thing I wanted to say, Frank DeRubius's office, I've been subscribing to the Smithtown paper, the news, for 25 years. I opened it up last week, as appropriate as it could be, and it says there was a Route 25 study. The corridor study was released by the planning department. I won't bore you because I'm sure you fellows read it. Route 25 has a high accident count in comparison to other major arterial roadways due to the complexity of its functions as a commercial corridor. So all the data sounds great. The reality is the facts are here. And the planning board themselves picked it up and realized what it was, printed it, and of course it doesn't suit everybody, but that's the way it goes because that's the facts. So I want to thank you for your time. And I'd like to bring these into Frank.
Could you give it to Mr. DeRuis, please? You'll see that we get a copy of it. The other gentleman?
Good evening. I'm Paul Richards. I live in Smithtown, New York. I traveled this intersection multiple times every day. I've been doing it for 15 years. I was asked to speak tonight.
What is your address, please?
20 Eckernkamp Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Thank you.
I've been here 15 years. Basically, I have a few concerns. I'm not going to bore you because we're going to go over a lot of the same things. But basically, the zoning change, I think, is a precedent for the town that I think is unhealthy because it may breed spot building in the future, not with Hess, but with anybody else who may want to develop service stations or any type of zoning that doesn't conform to the zoning that's already present. I think it sets a terrible precedent. Secondly, we've talked about the uniqueness of the intersection. The intersection is unique. And as you go from Mayfair Shopping Center west, going towards this intersection, it only gets worse. I mean, I take my kids to Friendly's. Trying to cross over from going eastbound, going into Friendly's is a nightmare. Just as simple as that. Also, gas stations have intense traffic counts coming in and coming out, with all due respect to any other experts that say otherwise. Restaurants have less intense traffic counts. Banks have even less traffic counts. All you have to do is stand in front of a bank and see how many cars come in and out in an hour as opposed to a service station. Much, 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 much less. I know this because I'm a developer. I develop gas stations, banks, 7-Elevens, retail stores. I do it all. And not only in Long Island, but in the 5 boroughs. So I know about traffic counts. And gas stations are designed for as many cars to come in as possible. I also have to dispute, with all due respect, Mr. DiNicola. It's true. Oil companies promoted convenience stores. Why? Because in the early 70s, 7-Eleven became the gold standard of convenience stores. So oil companies saw that and decided to integrate it into the gas station concept. So with all due respect, convenience stores are supposed to be a destination. At 10 o'clock at night, if my kids don't have milk the next day, my wife's going to tell me to go to the corner and get the milk. She's not going to want to hear it otherwise. So it becomes a destination. Also, people gather at these places too. Let's meet at so-and-so. So there's more traffic that comes in, not only with the gas station, but with the ancillary use as well. So again, ingress and egress, very, very intense. And now what's going to happen is this service station, well, it looks beautiful. I saw the picture here. It doesn't show any cars. The reality is there's nothing but cars. And I think that with the intense ingress and egress and people deciding to go in and out as they please, I think it's only going to create more traffic problems and potential fatalities. Better usages for the property. I go past the property. Like I said, I'm a developer. Why this place hasn't been marketed as a bank site or a restaurant site is beyond me. I think that is the perfect use for that. And why it hasn't been marketed like that, I can't answer you. I don't know. Lastly, like I said, the accident potential increase. I think that by putting this particular site, as it's being designed, I think you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole with back easements and all these other things. I think it really just kind of pushes the envelope on how unsuitable it is. And thank you very much for your time.
Is there anybody else over here that wishes to speak?
Edward Fioravanti, 40 Smiths Lane, Comac, Fiorvanti. I have a few concerns with the proposal. First off, is this supposed to be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week store? And if so, there's going to be quite a bit of noise, light, traffic involved with this. My property diagonally borders the house next door, the office building that's being renovated, and currently now, that access road that's going to be used for the entrance not only serves as an entrance to the spare rib, but also it's already a major cut-through. People avoiding that light on Jericho Turnpike are making that right at that cut-through, going through the spare rib, and then making the right out onto Jericho Turnpike. Add that traffic to the gas station, the spare rib, and people making cut-throughs, and that's going to be a very busy intersection. And also, the noise and the lights from that intersection pretty much go directly to some of the backyards in our neighborhood. Problem with deliveries of gasoline in the middle of the night or other deliveries of food or beverages could also pose a noise and traffic problem as well. And I also have a question on anyone traveling westbound on Jericho Turnpike. How are they going to access that site? Are they going to make a left on Harned and then a left into the access road? Or are they going to make a left into the spare rib and then come around into the site? And lastly, we have a number of convenience stores and gas stations in the area. I'm really not so sure if it's necessary to add another. Thank you.
Gentleman in the back.
Yes, hello, my name is John Bacchi, B-A-C-C-H-I, and that's 42 Smiths Lane. My question is if there is going to be a buffer. I'm the property behind their property. If there would be some type of buffer between their property and the adjacent properties. Because right now, the spare rib, there is supposed to be a 50-foot buffer. I believe the town agreed for a 25-foot buffer, and they decided to come right to the fence line. So I don't even know if that right-of-way, the way that they would cut through, is there even room to cut through? And like I said, if there would be a buffer and if they would use anything, trees or something to, slow down the noise, and really that's about it. Thank you.
We'll get some answers for you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else over there that wishes to speak on this? Mr. DiNicola.
With reference to the traffic issues that were raised by Mr. Massa and the other gentleman, the couple next door, as well as the developer, I'm going to have our traffic expert address those issues, okay?
Okay.
Then we'll get to the other couple of issues also.
Good evening, Wayne Muller, RMS Engineering again. I guess one of the questions that was raised was, and if I could just bring the aerial photograph back up. And I believe here you could see the driveway to the facility located directly to the south. Would there be any way that the county would approve a traffic signal at the intersection of Hess and Haunted Road? And based on my experience, the answer to that question would be no. There are certain volume criteria that are set forth in the manual on uniform traffic control devices. It is highly unlikely that the county would allow or permit the installation of a traffic signal at that location. The remedy, which I believe they will employ, will be to prohibit left turns going out of the driveway at that spot, which again, as I indicated previously, is one of the conflict points or potential conflicts of somebody making a left out and the other cars coming through. So based on the volumes that would be generated by this facility and the criteria set forth in the standards, I do not believe a traffic signal would be installed at this location, and the county would not improve it. As for the question regarding westbound cars coming into and out of the site, as I indicated previously in my testimony, we are going to prohibit the turns in and out of the driveways on Route 25, to the westerly driveway being entering right turns and the easterly driveway being exiting right turns. What will probably happen is that if a vehicle is traveling west from points west on Jericho Turnpike, they will travel into the newly opened Hess Express, which is located about 3/4 of a mile to the east. If they're traveling in the westbound direction, go into the facility at that point and then turn out and go back on their way. Again, people normally don't cross the road to get into a gas station. I know I don't. I'm typically just find one that's on the right side of the road when I need to get gas, and I just pull in and pull out and go on my way. So I believe those were the only unanswered traffic questions. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Does the board have any other questions or follow-up questions, Mr. Chairman?
No.
All right. With reference to the gasoline tanker truck, I'll have Hess engineer Mr. Papazian address that.
Kevin Papazian from FST Engineers, 500 Bike County Boulevard, Farmingdale, New York, 11735. I know there's a question from the owner to the south about, I think it was two questions, one about landscaping along the cross-access and then also about the tanker truck and deliveries. If you look at the site plan, here, there will be landscaping put along this whole entire southern boundary will be buffered with landscaping. It's not designed of yet. We're at that stage yet, but there will be landscaping proposed there. We'll work with the planning department to come up with a design that's applicable to both the use and for the neighbors next door. It'll probably be arborvitae, some heavy Leland cypress of pine type variety, which usually is done within buffers. In regard to the fuel tank deliveries, the truck will be coming from Haunted Road, traveling northbound, make a right into this cross access, then it'll make a left. The tanks are over here to the eastern side of the property, away from the back or the south, so the truck would park right here, out of the way of everything, so there's no conflicts with circulation of the property or issues regarding noise and stuff like that pertaining to the people to the south. As well as tanker deliveries are only about 3 or 4 times a week, depending on the volume of the station, but it's not frequent enough to be an issue, and usually we can make it at times where it's not an issue to the neighbors to our south as well. So I think those two issues address the concerns they had regarding that, and I think Mr. Mueller addressed these issues regarding the traffic.
If there are, if there are, go ahead. Mr. and Mrs. Burrow, you asked a question about cross access. Was that between your property and our property? No, there will be no cross access. You're the new building, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if I may address. Your property is the building under renovation to the south, is that correct? No, there will be no cross access between this property, this site, and your site. There will be landscaping, correct me if I'm wrong, separating the two properties. And if required, Hess will put up a, normally we use a 6-foot PVC fence if that would be something you would want. But there will be no cross-access from this property to your property.
Please, you know, that's what the problem is there when they answer a question is that gets into a debate. And we have recordings here and we have a camera here. So if you want to come up to the microphone and answer the question or ask the question that you want with Mr. Yes, okay.
In our site plan, when it was approved, it needed to have that cross-access there, and we spent significant amounts of money creating the curb cuts necessary and the bordering there. Now you're telling me that this is going to be closed. Is that correct?
We know of no cross-access between our property and your property. Now, what the planning staff had indicated to you, perhaps they may be able to answer at this point.
The rationale for it when they told us, although we didn't mind, is that being that the roadway is used as access to the spare rib and that the town likes almost a uniformity and where everything flows so nicely between properties, they actually had us to the back end of our parking lot allow access into that now what you will have as the common roadway. It basically is around here. Yeah, it's a curb cut. And we don't mind keeping that. We just, we don't, we're also planning landscaping, so at some point we should probably talk. But we just want to make it that it's cohesive for everybody involved.
Can I just say? That's currently on our approved site plan, so I don't know how that changes.
Well, if in fact the planning staff required a curb cut, as Ms. Burrow indicated at this point, and they want to keep it for cross-access, I'm advised that we would have no objection to cooperating with regard to that if in fact they wanted it. I wasn't sure I understood whether or not they did or did not want the cross-access. But if they want it, we would cooperate with them and work it out with them as well as the planning staff.
Concerns were addressed. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but he lives sort of in back, and he was concerned about buffering.
Let's see, which gentleman was that? Oh, buffering. Kevin, can you address that? Thank you, Mr. Ashram. You're on Smith? Just show them where your property is.
This is my property right here. Okay. This is supposed to be, originally was supposed to be a 50-foot buffer, which I think the town agreed on 25-foot, which they decided to make 5. Now, there's already traffic that comes from here and goes straight through, this being my property, really through my backyard.
What was your name again?
Jonathan Bacchi, B-A-C-C-H-I. And I don't know I believe now that they've violated the 25-foot buffer, that it has gone back to a 50-foot buffer. I don't know if you have 50 foot to have.
Well, in our application, like we're here, you're there. So your issue with the spare rib is technically on spare ribs. Like you're saying this should be landscaped, and it's not. We don't have that issue right now. Like ours isn't. We don't abut your property. It's, I'm saying we're actually in front of you. Like the spare rib goes back behind us, so that really.
Do you know the distance between here?
Yeah, it's I could guess for you. It's I would say, what is that? It's probably about 25 feet or so, approximately.
That would be from the building?
No, from the corner of here going back. That's probably the buffer you're talking about that they're supposed to have, but that's roughly looking at that is guessing. But so you're not really behind us. You're behind the spare rib.
Okay.
So.
And making this a roadway for continuity, they call it?
Yeah, because the main thing, why they do that, just so you know, is the reason to try to keep cars off the main roads. And that's something that the DOTs push everywhere, and as well as town of Smithtown and other towns, to try to keep cars within the properties that are there, to keep them off the main roads as much as possible. And that's what that cross-access does. That's the reason for it.
I believe we've addressed at least most of the issues. As far as Mr. Massa's concerned, I mean, he and I will respectfully disagree on how convenience stores came into being with gasoline filling stations. We've lost probably 50% of our gasoline filling stations since 1970, I'm going to say 6, 7. My dad had 3 base stations, and quite frankly, none of them are gasoline filling stations anymore. As I indicated, the equipment became too expensive for the little operator to purchase and function. Leasing cars came into vogue. There's a whole host of reasons. And the gasoline filling stations, as I indicated in my presentation, have always had a secondary use, always. It was either the original general store with the 2 pumps in front, or then the base station, the 3 base station, where you had your repair operation. We couldn't make money on gas. We had to have repairs if we were going to stay in business. And that has gone by the wayside. The next best thing is to go back to the general store. Now, whether or not the gasoline companies had that foresight, that's the way the business developed. Traffic, no one is questioning that the intersection has a lot of traffic, but our traffic engineer has testified that this particular site will create an imperceptible increase in traffic, and the traffic, even though the traffic ingresses and egresses the site, it is in the traffic stream on the road. And the way the site is designed is you will have a right turn in, right turn out. So right turn in, get your gas, right turn out, continue on the same lane of traffic that you were. Haunted Road, we closed off the northerly curb cut, which we had in the 2007 application, and we strictly have 1 curb cut at the most southerly end of the property, which also serves as cross-access for the spare rib. So we are taking traffic off the road for a dual purpose. Now, if people do not obey the traffic laws, that's why we have police. But I don't think that we can speculate or determine, yes, people are going to violate the vehicle and traffic law, therefore we can't do anything. Or we shouldn't have this, or we shouldn't have that. I don't think speculation is the way to develop zoning. If the NB district worked at the corner of Kings Park Road and Jericho Turnpike, there is no reason that it will not work at this intersection. This intersection is highly signalized, controlling traffic in almost every direction. And if you look at the number of accidents, which we have obtained from the New York State DOT, I mean, 77 accidents with 60 million cars passing through the intersection in some 37 months, as testified by Mr. Muller. I don't think that is problematic. And this particular facility is not going to add to any problems, and the traffic increase is really imperceptible. They're going to come in, get their gas, and go out. I mean, we shouldn't be making mountains out of molehills. Plus, I mean, you have to have, this corner is just absolutely ugly. The improvement proposed by Hess, it's business. It's good for the town. It's going to work for everybody's advantage. Competition is the nature of American business, and I'm sure everyone will survive. I believe we have addressed all of the issues. If not, if someone has an issue that we've missed, I'd be happy to try to answer it.
Frank?
Ask a couple questions.
Mr. DiNicola, I'd just like to state for the record, I'd like to ask your traffic consultant some questions, but for the record, the Kings Park Road site was a zone change, correct? The Kings
Yes,
Park Road?
yes,
And it's one
WSI
that
to
we
NB.
supported.
Pardon?
It's one that the planning department supported because we felt it met whatever criteria we felt was advantageous. So we're not just negative on all types of things. There are times when we support things and times when we don't support things. That's all I want to bring
Well,
on
I
that.
didn't mean to imply that you didn't.
Okay, but we do, as I mentioned before, we do like Hess. They have done a number of good things in town, and sometimes I like them as a operator. They're one of the cleanest and nicest that we have in town. But when we object, there's a reason. And I'd like just to ask your traffic consultant a few questions, if I may. Ms. Mueller, I just a ballpark configuration. You mentioned that there's about 40,000 cars that go through this intersection per day. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Those are coming from Harnett Road, Sunken Meadow, and Jericho Turnpike, correct? Those are the primary users, right?
Well, yeah, it would be eastbound, westbound, northbound, southbound, and then northeastbound.
Okay, so we have, and see if I have my numbers about right. We have about 10,000 cars coming up Harnett Road per day. Is that about right?
8,800.
Okay. We have about another 5,000 coming down through the Sunken Meadow.
Correct.
Okay. And we have about 20-some thousand coming through Jericho Turnpike.
Split up, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So we have movements in all different directions at this particular location. Moving down to the Kings Park Road site, where we approved, and I know you didn't do the study on that, but I'll give you the numbers that we have for that one, which the traffic volumes on that road is about 28,000 on an east-west configuration on Jericho Turnpike, and about 6,000 cars coming off of Kings Park Road. Okay, so it's completely different. What we look at in our configuration was it's a much simpler traffic movement at that location than it is at this location. Would you acknowledge that? I mean, in terms of...
I mean, it's that I did do the traffic study for that site. And
Okay.
I am familiar with it. Yeah, I mean, that location is primarily situated at a T intersection.
Mhm.
There's, believe it was there's a bank on the opposite side.
And Kings Park Hardware and a few
whatever.
yes.
There's, that
Mhm.
shares the intersection. So technically, it's a four-way intersection, and this is a five-leg.
Okay,
I mean, there's a
this
bank
is-
on the south side.
But
You've
it's
got
it's a different traffic, it's a much orderly traffic situation over at
it's
that location.
a three-legged intersection. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
agree
it's
with that.
much more orderly.
I
You're-
don't agree that it's not much more orderly because of the way that as I testified before previously, the way the state has set up the operation, this is very orderly.
Okay, we're going to disagree on this, but that's up for other people to evaluate that. But the other issue that I want to bring up is our concern all along, which was in our memo, is we're not concerned with the traffic volumes of these particular sites because traffic volume, as you mentioned before, is generated by all types of uses.
Mhm.
But you did mention in your presentation, and Mr. DiNicola mentioned in his presentation, that the traffic volumes onto this site are related to pass-by traffic. Okay, that's what basically you're getting the majority of your trips onto the site. That was your claim.
Well, that's true.
Okay, well, I'm not disagreeing with you so far. What I am asking is then, what you're basically saying is that at rush hours, when the most traffic is going through this particular intersection,
Mhm.
is when we're going to experience the most traffic onto and off the site.
Correct.
Okay, that
Well,
is our...
again, we have to quantify that because now in the morning we have a pretty heavy westbound flow, right? We could all agree with that,
Mhm.
right? But we're not really going to be collecting much traffic from that. We'll collect traffic from the northbound direction, stuff going east, and then the vehicles coming off the parkway, which are all at lower levels. We could agree with that, right? In the afternoon, the heavy movement is going eastbound on Jericho, coming off the parkway, and then we've got the traffic going northbound, which is still fairly heavy. So it's going to be directional in nature. It's going to go with the flow of traffic. I would agree with that. And Saturday, it's more split between east and west than it is during the AM and the PM.
Well,
So I think that in the morning, we'll collect a lot less traffic. In the afternoon, we'll collect traffic coming in the direction
there's
it's going
also
in.
a southern movement of traffic on Indian Head Road going down to Harnett Road, and
Right,
that's
and those
coming-
vehicles could make, if they desired to, make the left, come in, and then go back out, but they will not be able to make the left turn out.
Well, they're going to try. You know, if somebody needs
we
gas.
could speculate that, but again, we don't know that. I mean, obviously, as Mr. DiNicola indicated, and as I agree, if you're not supposed to make a left, you shouldn't, there's a reason why you shouldn't be doing it.
Well, we all know about the rationality of how people are supposed to behave and how they really do behave. But the issue still is that you are pulling traffic off this particular road. More cars are traveling onto and off this particular site at peak hour times, which are the times that we have the most amount of concern about traffic movements in this particular area. That's what the planning department's position has been.
Okay.
We've said that from day one.
But I think we also have to take into consideration, for instance, if we were to take, we're going to pull traffic coming out of this traffic stream. You know, they'll come in, do their movements, and then come out. But then the next phase of the intersection would be this movement. So while these cars are coming out, essentially, there's relatively no traffic on Route 25. So that's why and I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, but you also have to take into consideration the way that this intersection operates. Not just in the volumes aren't all there at passing by the site all at the same time. There are gaps in the traffic stream on Jericho Turnpike, and there even are some limited gaps on Hornet Road.
Except, Ms. Mueller, I've traveled through this intersection many times during rush hour. One car trying to swing over in a particular lane or is in the wrong traffic lane really ties up traffic significantly. And it happens a lot with the traffic coming up from Harnett Road. And it also happens a number of times when you get off that ramp off the Sunken Meadow, where people are not quite sure whether they can make the turn or what lane they have to be making the turn in.
Well,
And
again, I do believe that it's clear in my mind, and the counts bear that out, that this is to go eastbound on Jericho Turnpike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the volume of cars going, number one, you can't really, physically, you're pointed in a direction, you're not going to zip across to make that move, and the volume that's going that way is non-existent.
Okay.
You know, few people.
What our concern, I think we've mentioned our concern. Our concern is that you're generating traffic at peak hour times. Your argument, which I understand, is that we think you have answers to all of this. Our feeling is why do we put ourselves in this particular situation? And that's a policy question which we think we're going to base our recommendation on to the board.
But again, I think you have to bear in mind, too, is that no matter whether it's Hess or a bank or another permitted use within the WSI, this situation is going to exist. And I think that a bank, say a Commerce Bank or one of those type of facilities, whether it had a drive-through or not, would generate a similar amount of traffic. And from what you're saying, then, you know, really we shouldn't develop anything here. I mean, well, that doesn't, I mean, and I know you're not saying that.
But you mentioned that your traffic is drawing primarily from the traffic that's on the road. If I'm going to a bank, it's a destination location.
But again, and the reason why we're saying that is because we're actually bringing less vehicles into the area. They're already there. A bank, which has a higher percentage of people that may come from a different area to go to this bank, now they're adding to the traffic volumes.
Okay.
We're less.
But I'm not concerned about the volume.
Well, but let me make one more point. Now, if we're drawing from the people who are already on the road, the likelihood of them being familiar with the area and the intersection is greater than somebody who lives over there who wants to go check out the new Commerce Bank. You know, they're going to be more familiar with the way that the traffic flows and moves because, you know, people are creatures of habit. I mean, if you travel on Jericho Turnpike to go from your job in Huntington to where you live in Hauppauge or wherever, Smithtown, this is the way you come and you see this site all the time. But people, you know, you may pull people out of the other area.
Frank, I have a question, if I may ask. Currently, that location, a gas station could be opened up immediately, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So the question should not really be whether or not there could be a gas station, because there could legally be a gas station no matter what, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And could there also be a convenience store, but as it is laid out now, but not to the size that Hess is proposing.
You're permitted to have
Okay,
350
so there's,
square feet,
so there's
yes.
two issues here that I just needed to clear up. That, yes, a gas station, no matter what we're saying about traffic, no matter what we're saying about traffic flow, east, west, north, or south, a gas station could be opened up there without any question.
Except that what the
Well,
difference
Frank,
is, no, but what the
question
difference is,
Frank, that's all I want to know.
except the difference is that, and this is the reason why we have the regulations that we do, the traffic generation for a convenience sales plus a gas station is significantly larger than just a gas station.
Okay, but Frank, but a gas station
I would-
and a convenience store, not of the size that Hess is requesting, could be opened up, correct?
Well, if you, what you're talking about a convenience, we're talking
Oh,
about.
okay, then let's say a gas station and a place where you could buy cigarettes, milk, bread, whatever, not to the, could be opened up without any question.
If you look at where the mobile gas station is on Old Willets Path, on
Correct,
Jericho
okay.
Turnpike, that has a 350 square foot
Okay.
sales in there.
But-
But they also do repairs at that particular gas station.
But we're not, I'm not looking at repairs. I'm just saying, I just need to clear this up in my mind, and I think you gave me the answer that a gas station could be opened up, as well as a convenience store of a smaller nature could be opened up without any question.
Can I also interject one thing? In my opinion, based on the fact that the old gas station was just the small corner piece, that if a gas station was to open up here, it would, in my mind, have a lot more pump islands than it did previously. So you'd have a larger gas filling facility than you would have had in the past
Mr.
than
Mueller,
what was there now.
you read the IT manual, the Institute of Traffic Engineers manual. What's the difference between a gas station generation and a gas station with the convenience sales? What's the average traffic volume?
Well, typically the gas station with a traditional convenience market as the one that's proposed would generate 15 to 20% more traffic than a similarly, than the same amount of pump islands without a real true traditional convenience store.
Okay.
But my point was, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, was that if we were to compare what was there previously, that was not viable. There would be more pump islands, and if we were to build it with a small conforming convenience store, so the traffic generation would be close.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Members of the board?
I had a question for Mr. DiNicola. Can you give us an idea of what Hess's investment, proposed investment is here? Dollars?
Yes, I can. If I, give me 1 second. Approximately $2 million, perhaps a little more.
Okay. And in your presentation, you mentioned that the town of Smithtown would realize taxes from that. Can you give us an estimation of what the town would realize?
No, that I don't know what the tax rate would be for that particular location. But obviously, what I will say is that the taxes on the development proposed by Hess will be substantially more than what is existing on the site now.
And with respect to the planning department, I understand you're recommending against this proposal. In the event that it's defeated, what plans do you have for this site? What other opportunities are there?
First off, the planning department is not in the real estate business. But if you're asking what is the potential of this particular site, office use can go on this particular site, restaurant can go on this particular site.
I'm not asking about potentials. I'm asking about real possibilities, because
We don't deal with
excuse
we
me,
don't
it's
deal
a
with
totally
real estate.
blighted site. It's been that way for years. And I want to know if there's anything that you're aware of, not that it's your responsibility, but is there anything in the alternative that's ready to go into the site?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if
Is
you...
there anybody else interested in going into the site?
That's a real estate question. We don't deal with that.
Okay.
I can, in my presentation, Mr. Ashran, I indicated that the current owners of the site have been marketing it. They have had no offers whatsoever since, as I am advised, since we presented our initial application in 2007. So that's going on 4 years. And there has been nothing other than, quite frankly, Hess. Hess in 2007, Hess in 2011. And I would like to comment on what Mr. Yellen had indicated. You can put a gasoline service station, filling station on the site, on the WSI zone. It can maintain a 350 square foot convenience store. So what you can have is the filling station as proposed by Hess certainly, and a 350 square foot convenience store. Hess is simply wants to develop something a lot nicer, right. And it's only 1,237 square feet with only 644 square feet of sales area. So it is not that much off from what is actually permitted. And I tried to make that point, but Mr. Yellen did a better job.
John, they need a break.
5 minutes, he said. You got 5 minutes on the tape.
We have to take a break for a minute for the people in the booth upstairs there to reset their...